and then the red light will come on.
Yeah.
Are you going to do it?
Go on.
All right, it's not coming on.
Right, I'm gone.
Right. Yeah, yours is on. So then, afterwards, then you just take it off.
Okay.
When you
So
finish
you have to hold
speaking.
it down.
No,
Just push it
no,
down.
push it out.
Right, we're on now.
Okay. Right, good morning ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Licensing Subcommittee hearing. Councillor Mr M. Cuthbert is, and Councillor Davies and Councillor Parker are forming the subcommittee today, and members have nominated Councillor Cuthbert to chair the hearing. Councillor Cuthbert, can you please continue?
Thank you, Mrs. Borman. First of all, could I ask everyone to note the fire and safety instruction that on hearing the alarm, you should leave the chamber via the double doors at the back, exit the building through the main entrance and congregate in the car park. Also, please switch off your mobile phones and turn any other electronic devices being used to silent. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting is subject to an internet webcast recording where the proceedings are capable of repeated viewing. If you are seated in the public area of the council chamber, it is likely that your image will be captured by the recording cameras and result in your image becoming part of the broadcast. This may infringe your human rights, and if you wish to avoid this, you should leave the public seating area of the council chamber and move to the upper public gallery. Item 2. Ms Sultan is our legal representative this morning. Ms Sultan, please can you remind the subcommittee of its administrative function and explain the procedure to be followed?
Of course, Chair. Thank you. I would advise members and others. Apologies. Would you like me to repeat all that, or should I just go from where I finished? Repeat all of it? Of course. Apologies. I should have been mindful of the mic. So I would advise members and others present for this meeting that in dealing with the business of the subcommittee, members will be exercising an administrative function with a process similar to that of the Magistrates' Court. However, the proceedings will be informal and the rules of natural justice will apply. For the benefit of those present, I will outline the procedure to be followed in dealing with this agenda. As you've heard, Councillor Cuthbert, Davies and Parker are forming the subcommittee this morning, and Councillor Cuthbert has been nominated to be the chair of the meeting. The chair will ask all parties to introduce themselves. The licensing officer will then introduce the report in relation to this hearing. Members may ask questions on the report, and other parties may also ask questions. There will then be an opportunity for others who have made representations to address the subcommittee. The chair will then invite the licensee or their representative to address the subcommittee. Members may ask questions of the licensee. Other parties may also ask questions of the licensee. There will then be an opportunity for the licensing manager and the licensee to make closing statements. Members will then leave the meeting to consider the decision and may request legal advice during those discussions. When members rejoin the meeting, they will give their decision together with their reasons orally. The decision itself will be confirmed in writing in 5 working days following this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Sultan. Before I ask the licensing of, item 3 actually, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest to be made at this time? No? Okay, thank you. Before I ask the licensing officer to introduce the matter before us today, could I ask all persons to introduce themselves, starting with the licensing officers?
Good morning, Chair, members, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dave Leonard. I'm the Licensing Officer for Brentwood Council.
It's Paul Adams, Licensing Manager for Brentwood Council.
Hi, I'm Ruth Cosler-Baker and I'm the applicant.
I'm Zoe and I'm the clerk.
I'm Nargis Sultan and I'm the legal advisor to the committee today.
Councillor Keith Parker.
Councillor Vicky Davies. I represent Pilgrim's Hatch, but I'm a member of the Licensing Committee.
Councillor Martin Cuthbert, Licensing Chair. If we could also get yourselves on the back rows there, introducing yourself, if you don't mind starting there. So, thank you.
My name is Roy Williams, resident of the Thorns, Kelvedon Hatch.
Turn your mic off once you're done, please. Thank you.
Brian Billington. I live at Orchard Dean, which is the house next door to the one in question today.
Good morning, my name is Stephen Webb. I live in the Briars in Ongar Road. My garden borders the property for where the licence is being applied for. Thank you.
Good morning, my name's Jason White. I live in the Thorns. My garden borders the residence in question. Thank you.
Good morning, my name's Nicola White and I live in the Thorns, again where our gardens border the property.
Hi, I'm Gina Sumner and my property borders gardeners from at the back and at the side. Thank you.
Gary Poulter, I'm the owner of number 9 The Thorns, whose garden backs onto the event.
Good morning, my name is Lawrence Morrison. I live at Pettit's in Frog Street and the rear of our property borders gardeners.
Suzanne Morrison, I live at Pettit's. We border the back of the property in question.
Lovely. Thank you very much. This subcommittee is for the application for a new limited time premises licence, Woods Retreat, Gardeners, Ongar Road, Kelvedon Hatch, CM150JX. Mr. Leonard, will you introduce the matter, please?
Thank you, Chair. As has been said, this is reported to determine an application for a new limited time premises licence at Woods Retreat, Gardeners, Ongar Road. No representations have been received from the consulting responsible authorities, but 17 representations from 12 households have been received from residents living locally to the premises. Many of them relate to historical events and have occurred at the location previously, and public safety concerns around traffic infrastructure. All representations refer to the potential for public noise nuisance concerns. In making this, Chair, the committee will have to consider the report and appendices together with any oral submissions at the hearing and determine the application in line with options open to the subcommittee under the Licensing Act of 2003. And the options available are to grant the application in full on the terms and conditions contained in the operating schedule along with any applicable mandatory conditions, to grant the application modified to such extent as considered appropriate in order to satisfy any relevant representations and to promote the licensing objectives, or to refuse the application in whole or in part. Just in regards to this, just going through to the application itself, on the 25th of February 2026, we received the application from Mrs. Ruth Cosler-Baker, Director of Pix Events Limited, for a new premises licence to be valid between the limited period between 12th of November 2026 and the 23rd of December 2026 at Woods Retreat, Gardeners, Ongar Road, Kelvedon Hatch, CM15. 0JX. A copy of the application together with supporting layout plans is attached to Appendix 1. The premises is advertised as the perfect indoor and outdoor nature-inspired tranquil environment set in 8 acres of stunning scenery that allows clients to celebrate life's occasions such as outdoor wedding receptions, corporate retreats, outdoor fitness classes and seasonal festivals and celebrations. The applicant states that the premises will be used for an immersive Christmas experience for local families. The main building will be used for activities for children such as cookie decorating, interacting with actors and meeting Father Christmas. Outside in the grounds will be a marquee where there will be a children's party and a place to get food and drinks. There will be a licensed bar and amplified music, but the music will be at a volume suitable for children. In the rest of the grounds there will be Christmas decorations, lighting and car parking provisions, and there will be a maximum of 300 people on site at any one time. The event runs from 9 AM to 7:30 PM and all music will be finished at 7:30 PM. A set of OS maps to better identify the location is attached to Appendix 2. The application is seeking to provide the following licensing activities: the supply of alcohol on premises, Monday to Sunday from 11 AM to 7 PM, performance of play, recorded music and any other similar description from Monday to Sunday from 9 AM to 7:30 PM, and this is for a limited time, as said, from the 12th of November through to the 23rd of December. In addressing the full promotion of the licensing objectives, the applicant makes following undertakings within the operating schedule of the application, and that would be adapted to attach as conditions at Annex 2 should the new premises licence be granted. And there's a whole list there, Chair, of the undertakings. Again, we said we would put that into workable conditions should a licence be granted. The Environment Health Officer, Mr Sackburn, has been working with Ms Constable Baker throughout the consultation period to formulate a noise management policy to address the public noise nuisance concerns raised. Accordingly, Ms Constable Baker has agreed the following recommendation proposed by Mr Byrne to be added in the form of a condition to be attached to the premises licence should it be granted. And that would be that the premises licence holder shall commission a noise management plan which report shall address the necessary measures for noise control and preventing public nuisance from noise arising from the external areas of the premises, including, where appropriate, arrangements as to noise attenuation and mitigation measures. The noise management plan shall be submitted to the licensing authority for approval, and once approved, the premises shall operate in accordance with the provisions of the noise management plan at all times. The correspondence between both parties, Mr Byrne and Mr Constable Baker, are attached to Appendix 3. As said, there were 17 representations from 12 households that have been received from residents that are living locally. Many of them relate to historical problems that have occurred. The large attention capacity and otherwise a very residential hamlet, together with a lack of information regarding sound attenuation arising from the use of a marquee and the outdoor area, is giving neighbouring residents cause for concern. Redacted copies of all the representations have been attached to Appendix 4. There was a representation from Ms Summer, contains a petition signed by 44 signatories. These signatories have not been treated as other persons under the Licensing Act of 2003 and are not party to this hearing unless the representation in their own right. Many that are on that petition are here making representation in person, so they would cover. There is then a number of recommendations that come from the Statement of Licensing Policy, which you'll see, and likewise from the relevant sections of the Secretary of State's guidance. I think everything there explains itself, Chair, unless there's anything I can do to assist.
Thank you, Mr Leonard. Do members have any questions of the licensing officer at this time?
Not at this time, but I will have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions from any other parties? You can ask the licensing officers questions. It's not about statements at this point. You'll have your opportunity to sort of make a statement later if you'd like to. But yes.
In my formal application to come to this meeting, I asked if a member of the licensing committee or somebody relevant to it would actually visit the site and would also contact and speak with myself and anybody else who was around at the time to visually look at the site rather than just looking at the maps. Did that happen? Was there a visit, or has nobody actually been to the site to see how that would work? Oh, yeah.
In respect of that, sir, I visited the site on a few occasions just to check the notices to make sure the notices were there. There is only one entrance in and out, and the gates were shut on that. I have been in contact with Mr. Costa-Baker during the course of the application process and the consultation period, but there wasn't access to go in there. I've also spoken to the gentleman that actually owned the premises, who gave a bit more guidance, but in fairness there, no, I haven't got into the grounds to be able to inspect it.
So you have no idea how the parking is going to work and how the access is going to work in reality to the situation of upwards of 300 people being on site at any one time. It's not clear how long the session is for the people who actually come in onto the site. So at the moment, the site is going to have a maximum of 300 people. But 300 people are not going to stay there from 11 in the morning till 7 at night. So you may be multiplying that number to around 600 people possibly coming in and out of that site and parking at any one time. That to me looks like a disaster. Well, not a disaster. It looks like a problem with only one exit onto a main road at a very dangerous corner that we know of because we've been residents there for 30 years and have fought for their traffic problems to be sorted. We have real grave respect that you look at that carefully.
So, Mr. Williams, as mentioned, this is sort of questions. So if
my question, has that been done?
So I think, I think that's been responded. But Mr. Adams, have you?
I just wanted to say, obviously, Mr. Leonard has explained, obviously, from the licensing office what visits we've made to the premises. It isn't usual practice for the licensing subcommittee to do site visits. It's not like planning. There would be no interaction with members, with anyone, any other parties before the hearing. So your decision today is based on the evidence before you and everything that you hear in oral evidence today.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Yeah, are there any more questions? Yes.
Can I just ask, is this an opportunity to ask our questions now, or because I've got numerous questions that I've got.
Yeah. So if you have questions that the licensing officer or officers can answer, then yes, this is the time to do it. If you have, later on, you'll have a chance to make a statement, essentially, of what you believe or how you feel this application sort of impacts you, etc. So yes, if you've got questions that they can answer, they'll do their best to answer.
Okay, there's a couple of things I just want to ask. Firstly, I'm not aware that the property has appropriate planning to be a commercial venue. There's been untold events that has caused severe stress to myself, my family, over the years that have not been dealt with appropriately. So that is a question I would like answered. And just to point out that the letter that I submitted, although it's been judged as a single objection or a petition, that letter was signed by 44 residents surrounding the property, so it was a joint objection and not a petition made on my behalf. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess, so to the question, although I don't think the second part was really a question, it's more a statement. If you may wish to repeat that bit later on.
I just wanted that noted because there's a lot of people that are unable to be here today because of it from time restraints, and also being not in a health position to be here and represent themselves.
Okay. So I guess the question is about planning and how the planning side of things affects this this licensing committee. If one of you wouldn't mind just clarifying that.
Just in relation to planning, planning and licensing are two separate regimes. Certainly within the statutory guidance, it does highlight that. the committee cannot take consideration today whether there is planning permission in place or whether planning permission is required. It doesn't necessarily mean that a business is lawful to operate unless they have all the relevant permissions, be that planning, food hygiene, etc., etc. But the consideration of the committee today is, does this application promote the licensing objectives? And you shouldn't take into account whether there is planning permission or it needs planning permission as a result.
Councillor Parker.
Yeah, in relationship to the question that's just been asked, I assume in this instance that the 28-day rule would apply for events outside of planning. Would that be correct?
I don't think I can comment on that. I'm not a planning officer. I could give you a guess. You're possibly right, but it would be unfair to me to sort of give professional comment in relation to that. I think ultimately it's not necessarily relevant for this committee.
Okay, so yes.
Ask why that question isn't relevant, because my understanding is that to advertise your property for commercial events, you have to have planning permission for that. Now, this is a commercial event, so is that not? So why would that not be relevant? Sorry, it's not clear. Thank you.
Just to provide clarification, obviously we're here today to deal with the application for a licence. Part of the consideration whether we should grant a licence or not cannot be based upon whether there is relevant planning permission from the property. Basically, if we grant a licence, what it doesn't mean is that any business is then lawful to operate. They would still need to comply with other regulatory regimes, maybe planning, food legislation, health and safety legislation. Just because you get the licence doesn't mean you can ignore everything else. So this may be one part of a process of actually being able to operate a business. I understand that potentially planning might not have an input in that, but that's something that would need to be explored outside of this committee hearing. And I think, ultimately it is not a relevant consideration for this committee. So, effectively we shouldn't discuss planning matters, at a licensing committee. If there is a need for that, then obviously then planning can look at that or address that afterwards, separately. But for this moment in time, planning isn't a consideration. It's just what the law says.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that I would like to put that forward, that when you consider this application, that you take into account whether the property actually has the appropriate planning.
Okay, that obviously this is all recorded, but obviously that's a good point in your statement that you'll be able to say in a second. So yeah. So are there any more questions? Yes.
Yes, good morning. I understand this meeting has been held in an informal manner, so I will speak in an informal way. The gentleman in front of me stated that there hadn't been any type of official visit to the site because he couldn't gain access. And from my point of view, the previous events that have been held there have clearly demonstrated that the people who held them have the inability to manage any kind of outdoor event to any kind of safe standard. And the ones that have happened in the past that the applicant has shown inability to manage or control have only been for 1 or 2 days. Sorry, I haven't finished. This event is scheduled to last for 42 days. And I have grave concerns because the inability shown in the past, it was not managed correctly, and lots and lots of people paid the price for that,
So,
Lots and lots
so
of people.
can I ask what your question is, please?
My question is why the gentleman in front of me, sorry, I didn't catch his name or his
Mr. Leonard.
title, right, Mr. Leonard, why he has not visited the site.
Yes, sorry, Chair. As I said, I've conducted the visits with regards to checking notices on more occasions than one, because I was also dealing with a street trading application that's directly opposite. So I've done a number of visits on there. As I said, I haven't been able to get into the grounds. I'll admit to that. I couldn't get access to that. And just to make that clear, the applicant that is making this application has nothing to do with any of the previous history.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. You didn't have a question earlier? Okay, so, yeah.
My question is, when you're looking at the licensing for any kind of activity, this activity here has children at any age from 3 or 4 upwards going, and yet we're thinking about giving an alcohol license. Surely that's something that should be carefully considered. An alcohol license on a site when there's a lot of young children going around, potentially, I just think that should be a big consideration. Certainly if it was a bigger, I'm assuming it's something bigger than like a pub or something like that, that would be considered. It's not mentioned here. Has that been considered, is my question. Oh, sorry.
My name's Brian Billington. I live next door to this property, and I've lived there for almost 40 years. And it was built originally.
So do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I do. I think
we run the risk. You've all got your opportunity. You'll be able to speak for 5 minutes or so yourselves if you wish to. But we do run the risk that we're sort of confusing matters here. Mr. Leonard.
There was just some of the information that was I've read isn't true. I mean, the owners say they live there sometimes. They don't ever come down.
Sorry, is that a question? Because
the question is why on earth would the council let this go ahead when the trouble they've caused? They've been arrested by the police, and it's not. They never use it as a home. It's a business, and they don't ever live there. They say they come down a lot, but they don't stay there. They go home. It's an awful place now, and what they do is terrible.
Okay.
And the council should take notice of that, because we pay our rent and we pay everything, but they don't even live there.
We're going to have to answer questions, but so Mr. Adams.
Chair, just as a suggestion, I maybe wonder whether it's worth. We're happy to answer any questions that are relevant for us to answer at any point throughout the proceedings. It might be worth to sort of move through the agenda to hear everybody, a view on the matter, and then if there's any questions as a result of that, either ourselves or probably the applicant can answer some of those questions that are coming up now. I mean, these really should be questions in relation to our report and the information we've presented. Obviously, we still need to hear from the licensed applicant in relation to that.
So, okay. So yeah, with this in mind, we shall hear from the objectors, if that's okay.
Chair, can I just quickly check, please? Is that the end of it? Questions? Does anybody have any other questions? If it was just the one question, Chair, I was just wondering, and it's in your gift, whether or not you want to accept it. If it is the one question and it is just sticking to the questions, are you happy to accept that question and then you can move on to the objector?
Absolutely. If we can just keep this to questions, I really want you to make your statements and say exactly how you feel, but that is in the next section, ideally. So if there is a question that an officer can answer, then please feel free to do so.
Is it just a question for the officer, or is it for the
for officers at the moment? We'll move on to the applicant later, and then you'll have options. You'll have the option to ask them questions as well.
So you don't want us to ask questions of the applicant now?
Just the licensing officer, based on the statement essentially that they've just read out and the information that's in the agenda pack. That's essentially where it is. So, yeah. So,
excuse me. The applicant's details are in the agenda pack, aren't they? So, can we ask questions about this?
Yes, but
not now.
I mean, if it's a question for the licensing officer based on the information that's provided, then yes. But if it's about the information that the applicant has provided, then they will be best suited to answer.
Well, if I ask each question, you can tell me whether to ask it later on or whether you want to take it now. Is that fair?
Is it directed at the officers?
Well, I mean, if it's directed at the officers, then...
Well, one of the questions is about sound attenuation and the material used for stopping the sound coming through the marquee tent walls. Now, is that a question for the officer or the applicant?
Yeah, the officer, I guess, at the moment.
Shall I go through my question?
Could you put your mic on, sir, please?
Right. Yes, can you hear me?
Sorry, 1 second, Mr. Adams.
I just wondered, Chair, whether it's worth saving that question until the applicant has presented their information, taken through their noise management policy, etc.
Okay.
If there's any additional questions after that,
Let's just go for it. We might
be jumping a little bit by that line of questioning.
Okay. We will hold off on the questions, and we will make sure that all of your questions are answered shortly. That may make things easier. Councillor Davis.
Just one question. We know about the history. We've read all the documentation that's come in. Was the property in the same ownership at that time as it is now, or under the same management?
Yes, the property actually is owned by... Sorry, was someone else speaking then? Sorry, was the question in general?
Yeah, sorry, the officers are meant to
oh, right,
ask
sorry,
questions.
I think he was asking while she was...
I believe, Chair, that the premises was owned by the people that own it at this current stage. It was being used as an Airbnb at the time that the problems were arising previously.
Right, thank you very much. So, just to be clear, do you have any questions of the licensing officers at this moment? I just want to make sure you've had your opportunity to speak.
No, I don't. Thanks.
Thank you. Right. We'll now hear from other persons who have made representations. Mr. Williams, please feel free to make a statement and let us and advise of your objections.
Yeah, I'm on. Please, as soon as I finish, tell me to turn it off, because I haven't managed that 4 times already. My major concern is that if this licence is granted, it will then mean that the next time that this particular company want to run something, it will be easier for to get a licence. The projects that they'll have will get bigger, and those are the sort of things that the residents, I'm sure all of us, the last thing we want is something that gets bigger and bigger each time right in our doorstep. I don't feel that if you've gone through the evidence of what the applicant is going to do, as far as health, as far as safety, as far as traffic, as far as parking, those do not seem to make me feel any happier about this particular project. The fact that it's going to last for 6 weeks, it's going to take some planning, so it's going to be weeks before. I just think the disruption to that whole area, to all our lives, will not be acceptable. So I have very, very grave reservations about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr Millington, I was going to say your mic, just as a reminder. Sorry, Mr Williams. Mr Billington, I think.
I mean, I'd just like to say that from what I've heard and from what's been put in by the applicants, is it's not true. I mean, they say the owner has said somewhere that they come down and live there. They don't. They don't. They only come down to make sure that whatever they're planning, and you know, in the summer they plan lots of things there. It's all about making money. They don't live there, and they've not lived there at all. And I think that, and the way they're treating all the neighbours is so unfair. I mean, I had probably 100 people climbing over the wall, climbing all down my garden, ruining my fence, and it's a long fence because it's in 2 acres of ground, and they don't care, and they was piling over the wall, running around everywhere. It was terrible, and they were all on drugs because they were caught with drugs, and in the end, I think the owner was fined £10,000 for that what happened that day. It was awful. And I think that they don't care because they don't live there. They hardly ever come down. They don't even apologise when there's anything like that happening at all. And I think that, you know, there's one representative from them that all they're interested in is making money, and it will get worse and worse and worse if this is agreed. And there will be a lot of angry people. I mean, I did a lot of walking around to speak to all the neighbours about this, and they all had concerns, everybody that's put their name to this happening. And I think if it's granted, it's going to lead to so many problems. And I think that the family don't care because they're living in London. They just want the money, and that's all they're interested in.
Thank you, Mr Billington. Mr Webb?
Good morning. I'd just like to start off by saying, just reiterating what I mentioned earlier on. I find it, biggest belief, to be fair, that considering a licence application from somebody who's demonstrated that they have the inability to manage any kind of event that involves a few people by their own admission, and they apologise for all of that, which I read. It says in the application that the property is residential, and why is it being used to run the business every day for 42 days consecutively, leading up to Christmas, which is going to cause a lot of people a lot of problems, I think. The property location is wholly inappropriate to stage a 6-week event. I've written again, it's residential. The location where that is, as previously mentioned, there is only one entrance in and out of there. It is basically a T-junction. It does not have any kind of slowing down arrangement to be able to turn into it. It is quite simply driving along the A128, which I think we all know can take any type of vehicle up to 42-tonne articulated lorries, emergency service vehicles going both ways, and people having to slow down on a blind bend and turn left into that turning. Is dangerous. Very, very dangerous. There is no way that if someone looked at that and say you're going to do this for that amount of time, that is dangerous, and that will cause accidents here. There was an accident now earlier on in the year. I had the police come in my house and ask me to look at the video footage from my Ring doorbell to see if they could find any evidence. That is a very dangerous piece of road, and where the entrance is set, as I say, there is no slowing down. It is just go along, oh, there it is, indicate left. Bang on the brakes, possible injury accident. I'd like to carry on by talking about alcohol. Again, it states it's going to be on sale for 8 hours a day. I've lived in that area for over 10 years. There is very little in the way of public transport. And my understanding of this event is that most attendees will be arriving by car. And my view of that again is that there is a high risk of people drink driving and then leaving the venue being over the limit to drive because there are no buses after 6 o'clock.
Nothing on a Sunday.
And nothing on a Sunday. There is nowhere to park outside. I have grave concerns about that. Again, I have a car and I have to back off of my drive onto the A128 and sometimes it is dangerous. It is dangerous, and that's just, from my point of view, for 6 weeks, I dread to think what will happen now, especially in the darker months leading up to Christmas. We all know at Christmas there's more traffic on the road, and I have concerns about that. And again, another thing I've written on the bottom now, again, which I think is quite a high profile of late, is people's mental health. I think that something like this, a lot of the people who live, my neighbours and who we all border their property, that's going to have a major impact on their mental health because every day for 6 weeks, it's going to be that going on. And we've all had it in the past, we've all had a dose of that in the past with the noise. 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, people parking their cars in the roads outside and people using fences and gardens as toilets. We've had all of that in the past. And again, I'll go back to what I originally said. I am of the opinion, well, I'm quite surprised that the site has not been visited before we're even at this point. And the fact that the applicant has demonstrated that they are unable to manage an event. And that's just a 2-day event that's happened in the past. That's my views. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Webb. Mr. White.
Yes, Mr. White, number 7, the Fawns. Just in my opinion of what I've seen in the past when they have done 2-day events, people getting out of their vehicles, urinating up my fence, jumping over our back gardens whilst we've been in our gardens. You couple that with an 8-hour alcohol licence, that's got trouble written all over it with the way that people will have to drive to get to this venue and away from this venue, as well as showing an ineptitude to, as I say, hold an event for 2 days and you put this for 6 weeks. It's just a grave concern for health, safety and our mental health as well. So that's from Nicola and Jason White, 7 the Fawns.
If there's an accident on the M25, for instance, they divert the traffic off along 128, so that, alongside with the traffic as well, that's coming in and out onto that, like you say, that blind bend, is just dangerous, so dangerous. There's an accident waiting to happen, basically.
Definitely. But it's the concern with the alcohol licence as well.
100%, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. White. Ms. Sumner.
Thank you. Sorry, I've written a few notes because obviously there's lots of things to cover. So I know my neighbours here have spoken about the issues. 5 years we've had issues with this property. It is in effect a 3-bedroom house with a large garden. 8 acres sounds a lot, but our properties are embedded into that property. If you look at the ordnance map, my garden doesn't, it sits within the boundary of the property. So my garden, at the side of my property, I can see into the garden of the said property. On the website, there is aerial pictures, which gives you a better understanding of Woods Retreat on what our properties look like from above to the property, which I think everyone should look at. I know this event is being aimed at children, but, you know, what my main concern is that, yes, what's happened previously and the management of it, I have no... I just don't trust the owners to actually do what they say. I know it's a joint venture. The planning application actually states Pix Events Limited and Woods Retreat, so they would have some kind of involvement. What worries me is that some of the residents have health issues, Parkinson's, dementia, mental health issues. And you can hear everything that goes on in that garden. If you can imagine that you've got 22 houses one side, larger properties to the right, you've got this property, it's almost like it's surrounded in a bowl. And you hear everything. You can hear when they start a fire in the woods. You can hear the children talking. You can hear them playing football. Basically, everything that goes on in that property, we hear, like we do the neighbours to our left and so on. And what they're asking is to have an event from 9 o'clock till 7:30. So I work from home. My office is in the back of the house. And I'll hear everything. I hear the cars coming in and out. And apparently the parking is going to be, as you come into the property, to the left is a larger field. That is where up to 70 cars at one time, if you cover an average family of 4 in one car, is going to park. That's all green grass. Now, I drive a truck. I spend a lot of time over farmlands with my dogs. I can just about get across grassed areas in my 4x4. I know which areas I can and can't cross. Believe you me, in winter, that will be just impossible to get your standard car into those areas. Now, I've looked at the policy and the presentation that covers these areas, and they're going to provide matting. That's going to be an expensive thing to do. So I know that they're actually looking potentially to have high numbers. So, you know, matting across these areas, that's going to cost a lot. So high numbers, high footfall, high noise, people talking, music playing in the venue, in the marquees, all day, 10.5 hours a day for 6 weeks. And we're supposed to be able to function at home. I can guarantee, and if people want to come and visit, you know, that I will hear everything. Every event that's gone on in that garden, I've had to be there. I have had to put myself at that event because it's just beyond belief that a house surrounded by so many residents can be considered for an event of this type. I booked to go to Audley End a few years ago. It got shut down because the cars got stuck. It was an absolute nightmare. Tickets were cancelled. This is a venue on a bend where the only entrance in and out is via a long drive where one car at a time can enter the gates. They have to drive up to the top of the drive before a car can come down. Now, if you've got a series of people waiting to get in that venue, you've got an instant blockage on top of that blind bend. Now, if there's 2 or 3 cars waiting to get in and a car comes around that corner at 40 miles an hour, that is going to cause an accident. And I've been at this property for over 20 years, and I have lost count of the number of times I've gone out and held someone's hand because their car has been smashed up on that corner. There's been a fatality on that road. It is not a nice road. It's dangerous to reverse out, but we have no choice. We live there. And the other thing is, if people aren't taking their cars to this venue and getting public transport, they have to cross that road, a very busy road. I choose not to cross that road as little as often as I have to. It is dangerous. You cannot see from either side of the bend oncoming traffic. Sorry, I'm just going to check I've mentioned everything.
You're at 5.5 minutes now to try and...
I've got quite a lot to cover if that's okay. Sorry, I'll just be really quickly. You know, I'm going to be a speaker for the people that are unwell and actually can't be here. My neighbour has Parkinson's. The last event, she was so distraught that she contacted me. I had to contact the owner, whose number I have, not through being a neighbourly person. I had a number for another issue with regards to the boundary. It took 9 hours to stop that party, 9 hours. and they had to shut the gates to stop people getting in. I've had people coming onto my land, jumping on top of my car to get over the fencing. It's been horrendous. And I know this is aimed at Christmas and children, but for 6 weeks, and no matter what, once you get into that surrounded area, all the noise bounces off our properties. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms Sumner. Mr Porter.
My concern is really just for me. I'm going to make this clear. I'm 55, 56 years old now, yesterday. I've been single for 30 years and there's a reason for that. And the reason why I moved to this property is because of the quietness, the solidarity of it, having no neighbours around me. You can tell by how nervous I am. Once I finish this conversation, I also would like to get myself out of here, please, because I find myself in these situations very difficult. Now, I didn't even know when I bought this property, it's beautiful, quiet, no neighbours. In fact, these probably know that they've probably never heard a wink out of me. I want to be on my own, and there's a reason for that. Secondly, last year when this event happened, I was in my garden, mowing my lawn, and I just heard laughing and whatever it was down the bottom of my fence. You can't see from my garden into where this is going to happen because we've all got, or I have, massive tall fence to stop anyone seeing and me seeing out. Anyway, so there was a commotion down the bottom. So I've gone down the bottom and I've looked over the fence. I've had to climb over the fence. There's 2 men urinating up against my fence. When I told them, what are you doing? They got aggressive to me. One threw a bottle at me. And then the other one that was urinating up the fence next to it, literally, I've got the pictures if you want it. I've got literally pulled the fence and yanked my fence off of its boundary. I didn't buy this property for this. I moved there to be on my own and to just avoid people in general. And I don't deserve this.
That's about an alcohol licence.
And this, they were clearly drunk. And I'm sorry, that's all I've got to say. And once I've said this, please, I'd like to go because I find this is very, as you can hear by my voice, I don't like being around people, and I don't want to like being around open situations, areas where I have to come from. Please, I'd like to go after this. And that's my statement. I just don't want this on my back doorstep for 6 weeks. When, if that happened after 2 days, what's going to happen with alcohol and drink? My mental state is through the roof at the moment over this. And I've worked hard to retire and move there just because there's nothing there. There's 10 neighbours to the left of me, 10 neighbours to the right of me. Thank you very much. That's all I want in my life. For the rest of my life, I've worked 35 years of my life to get there. And there's a reason for that. And if you want to know the reason, I'll quite clearly give that to you afterwards. But also as well, I'd like to point out, lastly, that bend. I don't think you've highlighted how bad that bend is. It is a blind bend where cars go, once they've passed that 40-mile-an-hour speed trap, which is by the Army and Navy, once they've passed that speed trap, I can assure you their foot goes down on that floor because it is and once they hit that blind bend, if people are coming out of there, I've seen two crashes already. I think you spoke about one of them. The police come to my house about the video footage of it. It's horrific. Now, if you want to follow the cars going around that bend, like that aren't going there, and you've got one car, as she says, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, as you come out, and they're going to be turning left or right, and they're speeding around that blind bend, you are going to have problems, and that's all I'm going to say. And I'm really sorry. Is it possible to be excused from this now?
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Absolutely, you're free to leave when you... No apologies necessary. Right, so, Mr. Morrison, I believe you're next.
Hello, Lawrence Morrison and Suzanne Morrison. We live in Pettits, as I said before. Our property borders Gardeners Woods. Can I first ask, is there any aspect of charity in this event, or is it all just profit making?
You will have an opportunity to ask
Okay,
the
right.
applicant in a moment.
There's some wording in the application about recorded music being played only in the marquee. I'd like to know what noise attenuation material will be used on the walls of the marquee to stop the transmission of the noise through the tent walls, because even if you shut the flap on it, obviously there's an awful lot of sound going to come out of there if you don't provide any additional measures. Page 25 of Appendix 1 states recorded music will be played indoors. In the application it stated the music will be played in the marquee. I take it that it's just going to be in the marquee then. The proposal seems very nebulous. There are lots of statements like extensive fire management, crowd control, managing alcohol consumption, but there's no indication of exactly how this is going to happen. That the sound management comprises a sound check the day before, I understand, which is someone twiddling the knob and saying, yeah, that would do. Well, I have been involved in similar events in the past, and the only way to satisfactorily limit sound to a satisfactory level is to use an electronic sound attenuation device. I'd like to know if that's going to be used. Ruth Cosler will be on site at all times. We share her mobile number with the residents. Well, I hardly think that she's going to be able to handle all the complaints that she's going to get if she's the only one that we can contact. Limited alcoholic beverages, but will you limit the number of drinks? Because in an 8-hour period, someone can drink a lot of pints of beer. And this is something which has caused the problems in the past, causing criminal damage to fences and aggravating people. What does amplified music played in the marquee at a level suitable for young children mean? Young children usually like a lot of noise, in my experience. Will there be an extensive automatic fire alarm system in the house? Because if you've got a lot of people in there, I assume that we should have the approval of the fire officer. Similarly, a safety lighting system in case of power failures. Another one of those nebulous statements was that the applicant will operate the event in a professional and safe way, working with the council and residents. I don't know what that means, and no one has worked with me on this matter at all, or even contacted me. So I don't hold out much hope that that aspect will be adhered to. Guests will be restricted to dedicated event spaces only. Decorative screening and rope paths will be in place. Now, bearing in mind we've had people pulling down 6-foot fences, garden fences, climbing over them, jumping on cars, I hardly think that roped paths are going to contain them. I have a statement as well. Should I read that? Or yes, okay. So,
please do.
Page 20 of Appendix 1 on my copy hasn't been completed. So will the plays be outside or inside? If they're inside, then obviously the doors should be shut. If there's going to be a lot of noise, if they're outside, then obviously we're going to hear it, and that's going to cause further problems. Page 31 says the event is specifically designed and created for local families. However, it's apparently clear that the local families close to the proposed event don't want this to happen. So it really is not designed and created for local families at all. It's created to get money for the owners of the property and the person putting on the event. We live in a residential area. We've all moved to this area because it is residential. We would not have moved here. I certainly wouldn't have moved here if I knew that commercial events were going to be carried out in the property next to my back garden. this sort of thing just disrupts peaceful life of residents trying to get on with their lives and spoils the enjoyment of their residents, basically. Also, if this licence is granted, we all know that there will be a possible precedent for future events which will ever more degrade our quality of life. It's bound to happen. Once the foot is in the door, it will just carry on. And during the run up to the Christmas period, when we're all organising our own family events, do we really want 6 weeks of broadcast music drowning out our own family celebrations? I don't think anyone would want that. No one in this room would want that. Finally, I think the proposal is totally unacceptable. The owners have previously shown they have no regard for the neighbours, who are only interested in making money. I've got nothing against people making money, but not at the expense of so many people that are living next to this proposed event. To hire private property in the midst of a residential area for commercial gain is entirely inappropriate, in my view, and should be categorically rejected by a decent local authority. I think that's about it. I mean, I can't stress how much I object to this application, and if it goes through, well, I should be amazed, quite frankly, but up to you, obviously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. That's for both of you? Just briefly, yes, no problem. Thank you. Right. So, do members have any questions for any of the people making representation?
Thank you, Chair. I have questions, but I think they're probably more usefully directed to the applicant.
Thank you. Same. Okay. Yeah. Same to me. We shall. So, are there any questions from any other parties? Licensing authority, the applicant, towards the. No. Okay. Thank you very much. So we shall now hear from the applicant, Miss Cosler-Baker. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ruth Cosler-Baker, owner of Pix Events, and the applicant for this temporary event licence for the event, my new event, which is called Winter Wonder. I've got a prepared statement, but I'll try and address some of the questions that came up as I go through. Please bear with me, I'm a little bit nervous. Winter Wonder is an event, as some of you guys have stated, that is for young families with children. It's a chance to meet Santa and his elves, and to help children, who will help children with various activities like cookie decorating, testing toys. This will all happen in the main house at the Woods Retreat. Once families have gone through the activities in their house and they've met Santa, they'll be led out to a TP-style marquee in the gardens, where the elves will continue to lead the children in games, dancing and craft. There'll be an opportunity for families to buy food and drink. The idea really is that parents can sit and talk and chat while the kids play. It's a daytime event for families, and the opening hours reflect that. Additionally, we're offering dedicated sessions for children with special educational needs and disabilities. They'll be on specific days within the opening hours, for hopefully to help benefit the families that could use those. We'll also be proud to create around 20 paid jobs for the season, and importantly, to give young actors within Essex the opportunity to hone their craft and get paid work experience. We'll also be supporting local suppliers within the area. Pix Events is my business. It's relatively new, however, I've got a long career working in the corporate event industry. I've managed really big, complex events for other companies, which require lots of planning, lots of stakeholder management, and making sure that I create safe, responsible events. Pride of Britain has been a really important part of my career for about the last 10 years, which is a big televised award ceremony. This event's nothing like that, but what I want to explain is that I've got the experience of of planning brilliant events, meticulous planning, and making sure I create safe, well-organised events for the guests, but also everybody else that comes in contact with that. So for Pride of Britain, we close with, obviously, permission, a central London road. That means liaising with the residents there, the police, to make sure that everything is safe, and Transport for London. And it works well. And I understand that London's a very different place, but I just want to explain that this is what I do. I create good events. I want to emphasise that whilst PICS Events and Winter Wonder is a commercial operation, and it is commercial, I know somebody asked about charity earlier, I'm not here just to make a quick buck. It's not all about profit for me. My aim is really to create something magical for children, to be enjoyed by local people, and I know someone mentioned about the local families not wanting it. When I say local, I mean Brentwood, I mean Billericay, I mean Chelmsford, because people do travel to go to great Christmas events, and I think there's a demand for it, and I want to do this well. I want to thank the residents for taking the time to share their thoughts, and I really mean that. I really do. And obviously there's part of me that would have loved this to sail through, but it's really important that I understand the community that I'm hoping to be a part of. I needed to hear your concerns and understand how my plans might affect you. So I appreciate you taking the time to read through the documentation. I know there's a lot of it, and voice your opinions. Through the consultation process, it's been made clear that there's been some issues in the past at the property, and I can see that it's really affected the neighbours. And therefore I understand why you're here today, and I understand your position. For context, the property's been operating as an Airbnb for the past 6 years by owners Woods R Us Limited. I know there was a major incident there in 2021, and from where one of the Airbnb guests held an unlicensed event, and from what I've read from your statements, it sounded pretty awful. I wouldn't have wanted it either. Sorry, just... Excuse me. I also understand there's been some other incidents last year, one in June where a hirer, from what I understand, misled the owners and had a party without permission. And I also know that the owners have highlighted another issue where an Airbnb guest was playing some loud music, and apparently they were contacted by one of the residents and it was turned down. I also understand the owners are working with the council to try and avoid similar issues in the future. But I want to make it really clear, I'm the applicant. I haven't been involved in any dealings with the venue in the past, and none of those past activities were managed by PICS Events. I know you mentioned earlier it's a joint venture. It's not a joint venture. I'm hiring the space from Red Retreat specifically for this family event, and I will be applying for the licence. I will be responsible for the event and upholding the licensing objectives. I'll be there every day, and I will be responsible. I will create a safe, respectful event, working with the council, and when I say, and hopefully with the local residents, I mean that. If this licence gets approved, which obviously I hope it will, I'm here to listen to your concerns. I'm happy to talk to you and work with you. I don't want this to cause more upset. I'd like to address some of the specific concerns that were raised in the consultation, starting with noise. I've undertaken a full noise management plan which was submitted to Environmental Health, as Mr Leonard had mentioned, and approved in principle by them. The event will be strictly a daytime event. Whilst, as far as I'm aware, there's no way to soundproof a marquee, you're right, sound does escape. We will be making sure that we direct speakers away from neighbouring properties to try and keep it at a reasonable level. The gentleman, sorry, I can't remember your name, but you mentioned what's a suitable level for children. And what I mean by that is that they can have fun, they can hear, they can play, and they can dance. But my expectation is that somebody can sit with a coffee, have a conversation without having to shout over the top of music, and that is the aim. We'll carry out a sound check within ahead of the event, and the reason it's going to be quite close to the event is because until the marquee is up and I can do a proper sound check, but I will invite Brentwood Environmental Health to attend the sound check and approve the sound levels. Importantly, I'll be on site at all times and will conduct regular sound checks. I will have a decibel sound reader, and I will regularly check around the boundaries of the properties. I'm happy to share my mobile number, as was stated earlier, and if you have concerns, you can call me, and I'll speak to you, I can directly address those concerns. Regarding the alcohol licence, obviously there's been a few statements about worrying about the mix of alcohol with children. I want to assure you that we're not operating a full service bar. When I say we're going to have limited options, it means Bailey's hot chocolates and mulled wine and a few other items. We'll be operating a strict Challenge 25 policy. It's always going to be the priority that I create a safe, magical event for children. Any intoxicated people are at absolute odds with that. It will ruin the event and it won't be tolerated. This is not an event designed for people to come and get drunk. They're there with their kids. They will be driving. The intention is that somebody can have a Bailey's hot chocolate while the kids play and in a safe way. There will be no access to the venue to buy a drink without having first purchased a ticket in advance. Tickets will be purchased as much. There will be no walk-ups on the day, and every booking must include at least one child ticket. This is to ensure that the event remains strictly for families. Guests will be booked into dedicated time slots so they can enjoy the experience as a family. This will keep numbers low on the property and avoid traffic build-up. So people will be set times. I know there was a question about how long the experience will last. I think moving through the house will last around about half an hour for families to make their way through the cookie decoration, the toy testing, and seeing Santa. And then they will be invited into the marquee, which will be a bit more of an informal process area. But I don't see people being on site for more than a couple of hours. And the people will be staggered on it as they come and leave the property. Sorry. As you guys have highlighted, there is just one access point, and it is close to the Brian Bend on Ongar Road. To manage this, we'll encourage families to just travel in one vehicle to reduce traffic, and we'll have dedicated parking attendants on duty to assist vehicles onto the property safely and to park. I've spoken with the owners of the property, and they've also agreed to cut back some of the hedging and trees along Ongar Road to improve visibility for everybody. Additionally, if the council would permit, I'd be happy to place event signage along Ongar Road to warn approaching drivers. We will be hiring specialist all-weather matting. It is really expensive. It's horribly expensive, but it's the only way that I can safely manage that site, is to create a really good, adequate parking, and that includes access to the area, to that field. You can, I think, do you mind if I just finish and I'll come back to you? But yeah, it is an important element of the event to make sure that cars can safely get on and off the site. Privacy was raised in the consultation, and it sounds awful, particularly the gentleman in the corner, his experience sounds, I can see how much it's affected him. We will be putting barriers and fences in place to keep guests within the contained area. It's not just for you guys, it's also for their own safety, that they can keep within the event spaces, and they won't be able to go near the neighbouring properties' fences. There'll be no guests will have access to the upstairs of the house, so there will be no people that won't be able to look over into other gardens as well. There was a concern raised, I think it was just one person mentioned that they were worried about the fire risk on the property. I can assure you there will be no open fires at the event, and that I will conduct a full risk assessment, fire risk assessment ahead of the event, working with Essex Fire. PICS events will hold a full public and employee limited liability insurance for the event, and I'll draw on my experience within the industry to follow best practices and make sure we have a trained first aider on site at all times. All staff will be trained and will be there to help me uphold the licensing objectives and create a safe event, and also my commitment to be a responsible neighbour. The opening days will be Friday, Saturday and Sunday from the 14th of November to the 20th of December. Additionally, the 21st, 22nd and 23rd of December in the lead up to Christmas. If there is high demand for tickets, we may open additional days on the 14th of December. So I know there were some concerns about noise happening for 6 weeks straight and 42 days. That it will be limited to the three days a week for the majority of the time. It will just be that last stint where there'll be a few more days. We will close at 7:30 and alcohol will be stopped at 7 p.m. Because the guests are staggered throughout the day, I'm not anticipating large numbers of guests leaving at any one time. Apologies. As guests are staggered throughout the day, we are not anticipating a large number of guests leaving at once at the end of the day. Thank you all for your time today. Apologies if I've gone on for a bit too long, and sorry that I've been reading from my piece of paper. I just wanted to make sure that I got everything out properly. I want you to know that this event is really personal to me. It's really important, and I will put my heart and soul into making sure it's a really magical experience and a great event, and hopefully something that Kelvin and Hatch could be proud of. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. So, do members have any questions of the applicant? Yes, Councillor Davis.
I've got a number of questions. I know the area very well. I live within half a mile of the venue. I'll just state that. So I'm fully aware of the rural tranquility of the area, which people have said is what's attracted them to live there. You don't live there if you want to live in a very busy hub. It's also an unlit area. So any introduction of lighting on the ground would be a major change, which probably would add to some of the anxieties because it is basically a country area. My major concern is highway. I won't repeat what's been said because we know it's a dangerous road. Although you say your capacity is 300, it's a rolling programme, obviously, because you're not going to have 300 people there, as you said, for 7 hours. How would you cope with the ongoing comings and goings? I mean, are you issuing hourly tickets? Are you half-hourly tickets? So I'll let you come back to that in a moment. Because then I'm worrying about the capacity of the car park. I believe it was said it was a 70-car capacity. Well, you could have in excess, highly in excess of that, if you are as successful, obviously, as you would wish to be, which we then go back to, there is basically no safe parking outside of that environment. I mean, it just doesn't exist. So how do you anticipate managing the numbers coming and going with the capacity you have in the car park? And well, I'm probably, it's my maths, can't do the mental maths quickly enough. I mean, I can sort of see almost 1,000 people turning up in a day. How would you envisage managing that? That's my first question. Thank you.
Thank you. A good question, and I suspect that's been part of the concern as well. When I put the 300 maximum number in, that was really to catch everybody. I never intend to go above that. That would be the maximum. The number of tickets I anticipate to sell in entirety, if I've sold out and I've done really well, is about 480 tickets available throughout the day. The way that I'm going to split up the The event is that people will be booked onto a 5-minute time slot. So within an hour, I know exactly how many people are coming. Thinking about average family sizes, there's going to be some that are bigger families than others, but there'll be one family per 5-minute time slot, which will naturally just regulate people coming through, because it might be that 2 people will turn up, 2 cars or even 3 within that 5 minutes, but there's not going to be 20 cars turning up within a 5-minute period. And then there will be an estimate on how long people will stay. Some people might just be there for an hour. There might be some people that would stay for 3 hours. I can't envision anybody wanting to stay for more than 3 hours at a time. So the number of people will be spread out of the throughout the day. I think 70 car spaces would be absolutely the maximum that I would need. Bearing in mind I've also got staff working at the event. The numbers I've put forward, and with everything that I've put forward in the application, is really trying to capture the worst case, so that I don't get in trouble for having 100. Say I've put an application in for 200 and I get 201 at one point in the day. I didn't want to be in that position, so that's why it's 300. There will never be 1,000 people on site.
Okay, thank you. I'll let my colleagues carry on. I might come back. Thank you.
Councillor Parker.
Thank you. In your answers there, I sort of gathered that you expect to sell 480 tickets, did you say, for a day? Or would you just sell tickets? You would say there'd be a maximum of 480?
Sorry, for 480 tickets, it's what, if I sell out in a day, I expect to make. It's difficult to give you an exact number, because I will sell one family ticket for 9 o'clock, one at 9:05, but one family could be a family of 2 and one family could be a family of 8. There's a maximum of 8 people per session. So if a family's bigger than 8, I don't think there's many families that would come as big as that, but they would need to be spread over across 2 time slots.
So in effect, you're saying that the 480 tickets that you expect to sell on a day, or that you're limiting to sell on a day, is actually a family ticket, not a single ticket?
Sorry, it's a bit confusing. Individual tickets will be sold, but only each booking time will be restricted to one family. So the family, it's essentially like booking a family ticket, but they will be priced individually. But each time slot will be one family.
I think we're a misunderstanding, in as much that the time slot, I think, no disrespect, is impossible to keep, because, you know, people will be late or early or whatever the case may be. I don't think, you know, trying to use a time slot, for me, is irrelevant. What I'm trying to get at is the ticket you're suggesting that you're selling is not an individual ticket. So you could hypothetically have 480 tickets sold, and each one of those tickets could be a family of 8.
Sorry to cause confusion. No, I'm basing it on 480 people, not 480 families.
The other problem I have is the number of people on site in relationship to the people that you would employ. Thinking that there may be 300 people throughout the day, you would probably need a staff, I'm guessing, I've run these type of events myself, that you would need at least 50 people to manage it. If you're having, you know, a grotto, elves, bar staff, etc. Have you a figure for how many staff you would be employing on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, it's closer to 20. So basically, I've got an elf per room, a couple of floating within the house. There'll be 2 elves leading the games for the children, 2 bar staff, 1 clearing, 2 people managing the car park. So I've worked through those numbers, and those numbers will vary a little depending on how many tickets I sell. Because obviously I've got my maximum, I've got my sellout capacity, which I'm hoping, obviously, I hit, but the reality is I might only sell half the tickets one day and I might need less people. But I'll make sure that there's safe staffing levels. I'll do a full risk assessment to make sure that everything's covered. And obviously, I want to make a great experience for the children, which means that there is people to interact with and they will be looking after the safety of people at the same time.
Thank you. And I have a problem as well, I think, with, though you're saying I think you said you weren't sure what matting you was going to use for the car park. But at that time of year, even matting on a car park for, you say 70 cars, if the 70 cars relate to the number of people you expect to come, that will probably be 140 cars or 280 cars with the turnaround, possibly, but then you will have at least a number of staff there parking all day. Knowing what the weather is like in this particular area at that time of year, I think even matting will cause you problems on the car park without any hard standard. Outdoor events are a problem. I'm sure you know that, and you can't take every problem that is going to arise into account, and I accept that. But it seems that we are working on a lot of hypothetical preparations, if you like, for your event. No disrespect, you might not sell any tickets, but at the end of the day, it's your job to sell as many tickets as you can, and to have, just say for argument's sake, 100, 150 cars going through there during the day. I'm not sure that the area that you put aside for it will be adequate. There's a number of drawings within this package. None of it actually shows the car park, but I accept that you've said there's an area, I think, to the left as you go in. Like my colleague, I know the area very well because, not now, but at the time I was a councillor for Kelvin and Hatch for 20 years, so I know the property quite well. And I take the residents' fear, if you like, of where it's situated and on the bend and so on and so forth. So the actual movement of vehicles is great. I think you might need to take more into consideration the vehicle movement than you have.
Thank you. Yeah, so I had a few questions, but most of them have been answered. The one thing that I think keeps coming up, residents have brought up, well, everyone's brought up, is the highways and the blind bends. I've obviously heard, looking at cutting back some trees, bushes, hedgerows, to try to improve that, and you're going to have two people, two marshals on there. If you have got 100 extra vehicles or so a day, essentially coming down that road to get to your or to that property, and they are braking because they're struggling to find the place. I'm not sure that there's enough being done to address that. Are there any other plans that you have in place to try and mitigate the issues with that road and the entrance to the event?
I'm obviously happy to speak to a traffic management company and see whether they've got additional advice, which I'd be happy to take on board. There were no objections, as far as I'm aware, or from the police around it, although I think it was flagged that it could cause an issue. I'm happy to put the signage up to make sure that people know that there's an event going on and they can slow down. And I mean that as a warning sign, not a advertising sign. I'd be really make sure that it doesn't cross a line there. But just to to reiterate, because I think the numbers obviously are a bit confusing, that I'm expecting one car every 5 minutes, and I appreciate that they might be late and they might not come on time, they might be 15 minutes late, but it is going to be staggered throughout the day. So I'm not expecting 150 cars to turn up at 9 o'clock and not leave till 5 o'clock. It will be naturally staggered throughout the day. I'm happy to take on any other suggestions or advice on how else to mitigate the road access.
Thank you. So, are there any other questions at the moment? No? Okay. Right. We'll now take questions from other parties. So you are welcome to ask the applicant any questions, but I do have to stress this does have to be questions. This isn't an opportunity to make statements of issues with the thing. But yeah, so if we can try and keep this concise and keep the repeats down, that would be great. Mr. Williams, indicate to speak.
Has any other site been considered which would be far more suitable for this sort of event, which would mitigate making it a better experience for the people who want to go there and a less of an experience for the people who are going to suffer from this? There must be plenty of sites around Brentwood where you've got adequate parking, you've got somewhere you can put up marquees, you've got buildings. You would be able to put lighting up, be able to possibly prepare well in advance and do the clearing up afterwards. Access would be a lot easier. So have you considered any other site, or is this the only one you've considered?
Thank you. Yeah, I've looked at lots of other sites, not just around Brentwood, but as far as Chelmsford and in the local area. The reason I think the Woods Retreat works really well is, I don't know if you guys have been inside, but it feels magic as soon as you enter. There's tree-lined entrance as you come through. It looks like it's in the wood. The house is old, it's beamed, in my mind, it's one step away from Santa's house, and that's what really appealed to me about the location and the properties. There are other places that might have the car park and an easier access, but it would take so much more to create that magical experience. So I appreciate that this space has got its limitations and the expensive car park matting, which I've spoke to companies and they've given me really heavy duty matting that will withstand the winter elements. That's an expensive cost, but I think on balance from the event point of view, it's a great space to create a magical Christmas experience.
Thanks for that. Ms. Sumner.
Hi. My garden, if I go out there, I get halfway down my garden and I can't see a thing. It's very dark and it backs onto the property. I'm intrigued that you're going to hold an event until not early evening, fairly late evening, 7:30. I go to bed at 9 o'clock. You're going to have to light that area up significantly to avoid any cars getting into trouble, any pedestrians getting hit by any cars, to avoid our properties. There's no road in and out of that field area, which also is a bit... It's just really bizarre to me. This is a garden that we're talking about. So how would you light that vast area and to avoid having floodlit lights actually pointing into the backs of our properties?
Yeah, it's a really good point, and it's something that don't have all the exact details. Obviously, I've got another 6 months of planning to go through all the details of the event, but we will make sure that there's proper matting from the what feels like a road into the field where it will be used for parking, and also creating a separate path for pedestrians so that the vehicles and the pedestrians don't cross apart from one point, which will be safely managed. You can get really great event. It is floodlighting, but pointed down. It won't be pointed out. Like I say, this consultation has been really amazing, because if I hadn't known how, when you're in the Woods Retreat, it feels like you're in a completely different world, because there's so many big trees. You don't see it until you start walking around the perimeter. It's really hard to see out. So it's really great that I can see that, and we can address issues like making sure that lighting's pointed down and not out, to avoid problems. I'm addressing the problems now rather than in November, when it will be much harder to do it.
Thank you. So, any other questions? Yeah, Mr. Webb.
Yes, good morning. I think it's still morning, is it? Just, you mentioned the police earlier. Could you sort of share with us the interaction that you've had with the police regarding this event, please?
I think it might be, I haven't engaged with the police about the event, but I know that the application gets sent out to the police and child protection and lots of other people. So I don't know whether Dave, Mr. Leonard might be better to answer that.
No, thank you. I asked that question because you said it.
Yeah, no, I probably should have said it.
And while I'm at it, one other thing, do you know Health and Safety Executive UK guidance for noise limits for outdoor events?
Sorry, I did see that come up in the consultation. There is lots of different guidance for events, and it's really, frustratingly, the event industry there's very limited set standards. So there's the Health and Safety Executive. There's also the Purple Guide, which guides outdoor events. There's no official, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there's no official guidelines. What I think is more important than set decibels is to make sure that when we do this sound check, is to walk around with the sound monitor, with the environmental health. If you guys are happy, I'd love to be able to tell you when that is happening, and I can come and speak to you and just say, this is the level we're at, and is it causing an impact, so that we can then set what will be best for everybody.
I worked for 43 years in a very unionised business. And whenever anything was mentioned about HSE and an event that may involve the HSE, they are considered, from my experience, to be the go-to people, not other corporations or businesses. HSE are HSE, they're a government operation as far as I'm concerned, and they are the people who, in my opinion, from what I've read, set standards. And what I read about on their website, if I may, please, is they say noise events, for outdoor events, noise should not exceed 65 to 75 decibels, bracket A, I'm not sure what A stands for, at noise-sensitive premises like houses, between the hours of 9 in the morning and 11 at night. And it goes on to say that 65 decibels is classed by the HSE as normal, moderate, standard conversation between two people and described as fairly quiet. That's the HSE UK guidelines. And carrying on from that, to use the words that you used earlier, this is what I do. How do you plan to stick to that? Thank you.
The reality is, we can't stick to 65 decibels. If the 65 decibels is a conversation, it's not realistic. There's no point in me saying that we're going to be able to keep the music at 65 decibels. What I've spoken to the Health and Safety at Brentwood Council and was very clear, spoke to him about what would be considered a disruption, because I also want to make sure that I'm not signing up to something that I'm breaking the policy and I risk the event and frankly bankruptcy because I'm breaking the rules. So I wanted to make sure that I clarified to him what would be classed as a disruption. And his words to me, I haven't got it on email, were that it would disrupt the neighbouring lives. So a conversation between two people in somebody else's garden definitely would not, but the music will be kept at a level that it will not disrupt the lives of the neighbouring residents.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Have you walked along that piece of road where the Woods Retreat is? Have you walked along there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the winter?
No, I haven't.
So if it's going to go on till 7, that is pitch black. You want local families to come along. They won't be able to see. It's very, very dangerous. We had to have the half marathon moved in April when it was held because of that bend being so dangerous. So I don't know how you want local families to come. And if you want local families to come, they're not going to drive, for instance. They're not going to be able to see. You can't see walking down. There's no pavement at all. At all. There's no pavement surrounding that property whatsoever.
Good point. What I would suggest is that I flag to families, particularly the local, we're talking about Kelvin and Hatch families, that there is the limitations on the site. So there's a frequently asked questions, and I can also send out information ahead of the event to guests about the parking, the accessibility, and also flag that it is on an unlit road. So if you're planning to walk to the premises, that it would not be safe to do so after dark. So I'm happy to do that.
Mr. Williams.
You mentioned that in order to put some safety aspects, you were going to cut down some trees to increase visibility. Will you also be knocking down the brick wall that's right by the gates? Because that knocking down the trees is not going to make that visibility any better, because the gates have a nice brick wall that comes out to about 6 foot. Is that going to work?
Just to clarify, we won't be cutting down trees. It will be cutting back trees, but no, there's no plans to knock down the brick wall.
Mr. White.
Yeah, sorry, just one more thing, please. I'd just like to pick up again on what I was speaking about just now. I mentioned HSE guidelines for noise at outdoor events by houses. I mentioned a figure. You stated that you wouldn't be able to stick to that.
Yeah, to clarify, if 65 decibels is a standard conversation, it will not be possible to keep the level in that marquee to the level of a standard conversation. There will be multiple people in that space and there will be amplified music. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a loud, big rave type party. The noise at the property boundaries will be at a low level, but the reality is it will not be the level of a standard talking conversation.
Sorry, so you're confirming that you won't be able to stick to Health and Safety Executive UK guidelines with regards to exterior noise?
I think that the guidelines is specific. I guess the question is whether that guidelines refers to this instance, and whether this is a sensitive area and whether that is reasonable for an outside event. Like I say, I don't. That health and safety executive guidelines I've never seen attributed to an outdoor event before, so I don't know whether it should apply to this situation. Yeah. Sorry.
I think obviously it is noted as guidelines, which is part of the thing, but Mr. Adams, you indicated to speak.
I think, Joe, just going to add in relation to that, I think, if the committee feel that guidance that's being referred to is of relevance. I think it might be useful to understand exactly what document is being referred to. I'm no expert in this field at all. However, a lot of experience. I'm not aware of the document that the gentleman's referring to. Yeah, so I think if something you feel that the committee are going to rely on and the figures that are being spoken about, I think it would be useful if we could actually get details of what document he's referring to.
Lovely, no problems. We'll yeah, we can. Yeah.
It's not a document as such. I drew the information from the Health and Safety Executive UK official UK website. Thank you.
Okay, so we shall consider that and review that as part of our deliberations. Mr. Morrison, you had a question.
Thank you. Before I get on to my questions, I'd just like to say that some time ago we had an issue with noise with a restaurant in Frog Street, which opened the roof to let out the smoke that they were allowed to have, and the guidelines were very much a part of the representation at that time, and we established that at the boundary of our property it should definitely not exceed 65 decibels. Just saying. Right. You said that you're not anticipating a large number of guests leaving the site at the end of the day. Surely that's when most guests do leave once the event's over? I mean, how can you say that? Why do you say that? Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Just by the nature of the event, that people don't come to. I've been to lots of Christmas events with I've got young kids. That people come for a couple of hours. There's not enough to engage people to come all day. If the last session of the day that you can buy a ticket for is 5 p.m. So that gives enough time. That gives 2.5 hours for people to have enjoyed the event and the experience and go home. I don't think everybody, that would be the last person through the door is at 5 p.m. That would give them 2.5 hours. But staggered between that, so the hour before, they're likely to have left an hour before that and an hour before that. And there might be somebody that bucks a trend and wants to be there for 5 hours. I can't see it myself. I just don't think that there's enough to do. But at the same time, there might be someone that just stays for an hour and a half. The way that it's staggered and knowing how families work, how events work, it's not, people aren't going to sit there until the last minute to go home. Or not everybody will, at least. Right. In theory, there might be a few more families, but maybe 2 or 3 cars. I can't, it's not that there's going to be 50 cars leaving at 7:30. We don't know that for sure, but I also know that lots of families, my kids are in bed at 7 o'clock, and I'm sort of the target audience. My kids are at the right age. They're not wanting to stay around. So lots of families won't want to stay around till 7:30 anyway. It might be that some nights we might be wrapped at 6:30. There might be no one left because they've come at 5. They're there for an hour and a half. The times that I'm putting in is as long as it will is the absolute latest that people could be there is the 7:30. So when I launched the tickets, which I'm obviously waiting for the licence before I put my website live, there'll be one morning session which will be dedicated for children with special needs, as SEN as it's called, which is a growing number of families have issues with SEN. If it's popular, I'll roll out more. But basically, the difference will be that music will be reduced on that day. There will be different things up front, so people get like a visual journey for the kids, so they know exactly what to expect. The elves will be working with parents to know whether they want to be, because some kids don't want to be talked to, they want to be able to wave, they don't want to be engaged with. So the elves and Santa will be able to react differently on those sessions. So it's not massively different, but it will just be a bit of a calmer environment. There'll be these visual cues that children with SEN needs will be familiar with from school, and it will just make it a nicer experience for them.
You told us that you put on good events, and we don't contest that at all. We don't know you, so we can't. Our objection is that you won't be able to control the guests there. You've said there'll be 20 members of staff. You didn't mention any security in the list of people that you are providing. So how are you going to control and manage drunk and disorderly people? I know you're only selling beer and cocoa, but you can get drunk on beer, people regularly do. And if there's a group of people and they come and they do decide to stay for the day because they're having a good time and the beer's there, it's quite possible that you can get a situation which you won't be able to control unless you've got other things in hand which you haven't told us about yet.
Sorry.
Great. To be honest, it's not, my aim is not to control drunk people. My aim is that there is never a drunk person in that venue. It's not, like you say, it's not safe to have drunk people. So therefore, if somebody, I'm not selling bottles of wine, I'm not selling lots of drink. If somebody has come up to the bar for the fifth time for a beer, they're cut off. It will be before 5 drinks. It's about managing the selling process and identifying, and I've got absolutely no qualms to say to somebody, this is a kids' event. I think that's enough now. It's not about controlling the drunk people. There will be no drunk people.
I don't see how you're going to control that, especially if it's just you. And if it is for children, why do you need alcohol at all?
Good question. It's something I actually have debated with my husband, who's saying, do you need the alcohol licence? It might be easier to get this through without it. And the answer is, I don't need it, but I also know that I can safely manage this event and still offer a Bailey's hot chocolate or a mulled wine. Or a beer. Because of the way that the event is constructed, the way that I'll operate the bar, and it will be me, it will be the trained bar staff, to make sure that it is managed safely at that point of buying before anything can possibly get out of control.
So you're basically telling us there will be no security?
Again, I know I can safely manage this event without security. We'll have marshals in place throughout the event. I'll also, before the event, again, like I say, I've got 6 months of planning still to work through. I've budgeted in to have a professional risk assessment. Although I'm trained to do my own risk assessments, I will get a third party to come in and risk assessment. If they say you need security, I'll absolutely get security. The priority is to have a safe event for everybody. Most Christmas events that I've been to don't have dedicated security because it's not their nature of the event that people get out of control, out of hand. It's not Wetherspoons. It's not people coming to get drunk or to behave badly. So that's why I feel confident that I can manage the licensing objectives, create a safe magical event without having security.
I think we're going over a number of the same questions here and stuff that's been discussed, and I think it's quite clear either in documentation or has been stated before. So whilst I don't want to stop people being able to ask the questions that they want and need to ask, are there any that are new and sort of different, and maybe essentially, I think, there's a lot of, I don't know if there's quite a lot of explaining that's necessary with some of these, but I think that the stuff's already been discussed. So I think it's in everyone's best interest if we try and wind up, please.
Just one more thing to consider, I suppose, is that the property borders Doddinghurst Common, which is a wood and is a special site of scientific interest and houses many animals, a lot of which will probably be hibernating at the time. So the noise created by your event will disturb them. Another point which is sort of dear to my heart, but I don't suppose that's been considered at all.
I did see that on the consultation and saw the photos that you'd put forward. I don't have any mitigating plans to protect the wildlife. Obviously, there'll be nothing deliberately done, or I'll make sure that things like litter aren't an issue, that we're keeping a safe, tidy site. But if you're a deer, then there is going to be noise.
So in conclusion, really, I think the main point is that the site's not suitable for your event on a number of points.
If this is a question, then fine.
Okay,
but
I
think we're better off moving on. So, Ms. Sumner.
Can I just ask two questions? If this goes ahead and your event is successful to our detriment, will you be looking to have it as an annual event at this property? And can I ask how much a ticket is for a family, please?
Yeah, I'd like that very much. My aim, which I know might feel more concerning for you guys, but in a way, I want this to work. And if I come back for another temporary premises licence next year, I'm really hoping that you guys won't be sat there, because actually it's gone well, there hasn't been problems, and that it's worked well for everybody. Ticket prices vary. A trial price goes from £35 up to £50 at Christmas.
Lucrative event for you. And I, from experience at the kind of events that have been held next door, from a football match to kids' parties, illegal raves, illegal parties, every one of them is affected, and yours I'm expecting not to be any different. But thank you for answering those questions. Thank you.
So I think we're best off ending there. So hopefully everyone has had the opportunity to ask what they need to ask. Before we retire, to consider them.
One question of the applicant in relation to.
Please, sorry.
I mean, there's been lots spoken about traffic management and access and egress to the site. I mean, would you be willing to have a condition on the licence that said you had to produce a traffic management plan, but that has to be done in association with a accredited traffic management company, and for that plan to then be submitted to the licensing authority 6 weeks, 8 weeks before the event, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so, sorry, one more question from Councillor Parker before.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's, one's an observation for the residents and the other one is a question to yourself. The ambient sound and noise taking, I think my colleague and myself were partly responsible for the observations with the sound equipment for dusk. That's what you was referring to. And how it works is that they take ambient noise first and then perimeter noise to see how it works. So there is a routine, and you can quite have the ambient noise is louder than, that's the normal noise that goes on from the traffic and so forth, can be louder than what's on the perimeter. In that case, there was problems, but that's the way it works. So you could have the noise that goes on all the time being louder than the noise that's being transmitted. It's just an observation. It's not anything to do with this case. It's just to your questions. My question to the applicant is that I notice on the plan you have put generator if necessary. The amount of lighting, that you may need, certainly with beer coolers and so on and so forth, you might need quite a considerable kVA generator, which I know there are silent generators, I've heard them myself, but from the surrounding area that I know, it means that you've either got to run a very long lead, and there isn't an area that I can see where you can position a generator where the noise wouldn't be heard somewhere in the surrounding perimeter. But I don't know whether you considered this or not.
So the main need for power outside of the house is lighting. The marquee company that I am planning to work with, they use LED lights which reduce the power supply. They're confident, excluding the car park lighting, which I still need to look at, that they can run the lighting from plug points within the property, so no need for a generator, which is why I've put if needed. I still need to assess the lighting requirements and the power usage for the car parking area and the path to the car park. So it's something I need to go through. My plan, the position where I've put the generator, if required, is the furthest point that I can get from the neighbouring properties, just to try and make sure that it will be a quiet, or whatever they call silent, which we both know is not silent, but it will be as quiet as I can get and as far away as I can get from the neighbouring properties.
Thank you very much for that. So, before we retire to consider the matter, there's an opportunity for you to make closing remarks. Mr. Leonard, have you anything to add from the Licensing Authority?
A lot has been said about traffic, which is a public safety issue. And as Ms Cosbaker said, there was a liaison with the police, just to answer that question through myself. The community sergeant did stress concerns, much the same as yourselves, with regards to the traffic and the blind bend. They did have an opportunity to put paperwork in on that, but nothing came in.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Next, sorry.
Can I just add a couple of bits to what Dave's covered from the Licensing Authority? I would just want to remind members, obviously this is a time-limited licence that's being applied for, so if the licence is granted, once the licence duration passes, that licence then falls away. If any events wanted to be carried out after that, then a further licence would need to be applied for. So if it went well, it would potentially support another licence. If it didn't go well, that gives obviously more a reason to refuse a licence. I think it's important to focus on the application, and it's the licensable activities that we're looking at here and how they impact the event, not necessarily the event in itself. If there were no licensable activities, if they weren't selling alcohol, and if the the recorded music wasn't necessarily a licensable activity, then this type of event could go ahead without the need for a licence. So it's important that the committee just bears in mind that they focus around the licensable activities. There hasn't been any representation from the responsible authorities. Environmental Health are satisfied. They're the experts in noise. Obviously, the police have not made any representation as well. And we need to remember also that the Licensing Act is a permissive scheme, so you should look to grant the licence unless there is good reason not to do so. And if you can, by the application of conditions to a licence, negate those problems, then that's what the committee should, by law, look to do.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Ms. Cosbaker, have you anything to add?
No, thank you.
So, other persons, do you have anything to add as a final statement? No questions? No anything else like that? Anyone? No? Please do.
I feel that all that I've heard today is, somebody obviously trying to do business, but I just think that there's still no consideration for the 44 people that objected to this. And I don't think you've changed any of our minds in making us feel better. If this goes ahead, I know it's going to be terrible.
Thank you, Mr. Linton. So, we shall, we will now retire to consider our decision. I'll ask Ms Sultan, our legal advisor, and Ms Borman, our clerk, to join to help us with the wording of our decision. Thank you.